All right. This is blog number 2. Welcome to the blog. I'm the cranky SF Giants fan. And we're going to do this is the post game. I would have done this a lot earlier, except I was so busy watching the Cardinals beat the Dodgers barely. And, I know most Giants fans would probably rather see the Cardinals because they hate the Dodgers so much. Personally, I'll tell you, I want to see Giants-Dodgers. I think it's a better, the rivalry will be great, the drama will be great. I know we probably have a better chance of beating the Cardinals, but not necessarily. I think after Kershaw and Greinke, the rest of their rotation is somewhat questionable. Of course, the rest of the Cardinals' rotation is questionable. I think the Cardinals' hitting isn't as good, and that's one of the things that the Dodgers really kind of socked it to us this year. But I do think, but mostly I'm just tired of seeing the Cardinals advance. And to be honest, I'm probably in the minority here, but I'd rather fight the good fight against the Dodgers and lose than lose to the Cardinals and have to see them go back to the World Series yet again. Because I'm just done with the Cardinals in the postseason. They've been there too much. They've won too many series historically, and we don't want their fans getting too used to them winning because it sort of puts them further ahead in the conversation of greatest teams of all time, along with the Yankees. And I think the Cardinals are firmly a number 2 greatest team of all time right now, just based on championships. So I want to see the Giants and Dodgers, but if the Dodgers lose, then we better make sure we beat those Cardinals. And we've done it before, like the last time we were in a championship series, I believe. So anyway, let's get to the game we just had. This was one hell of a game. Very exciting for a Giants fan. This is what we live for. Postseason action. Thrilling. I mean, what a game. Edge of my seat. Certainly I probably would have preferred them to just blow them out, which I knew wasn't going to be a possibility. It was a remote possibility. But, this is how the Giants were going to win. I knew the whole time, it's going to be a close game. They were going to eke it out, and they did that. So huge credit to the guys. They've proven, despite the odds being against them, they've proven that with their playoff experience and their crafty veterans, and with their actually surprisingly performing rookies and their previous playoff experience, they look pretty poised and they look ready to make this series at the very least a bit of a challenge. I'm certainly not crowning anything right now, but you can't blame me for being in a good mood. We won Game 1 against Steven Strasburg. I mean, that's something to get excited about. All right. So, before I get into the actual game, I'll say that history favors us after winning Game 1, because according to this one website I'm reading here, especially in the National League Division Series, teams that have won the National League Division Series Game 1 in the past have gone on to win 91% of the time. 91%. Now, I know a lot of people think those stats are stupid. Look, stats are stats. This is a 5-game series. Certainly, I don't think the 91 necessarily, that 9% is weighing a lot heavier against the Giants, because it still is, a formidable. There's a lot of stats saying that the Giants aren't as good without Pagan, and we know that's the truth. So there's still a lot going against us, especially, if I think if Pagan was in, I'd feel like, we were ready to roll all over. But without Pagan, it's not going to be easy, and the Nationals are a complete team, very scary. But, I guess I looked at the overall division series, American League and National League, 78% of the teams that win the first game go on to win the NLDS. So, that's still a pretty good number, but National League alone, 91%. That doesn't really seem like there's any reason for that discrepancy between ALDS and NLDS, but, 91%. we'll take it and run with it, hopefully. So let's go over this game. With this game, the Giants now have the longest win streak in postseason history. They've won, I think it's 8 in a row now. And that is impressive. They've now pulled ahead of the Big Red Machine for the longest winning streak in postseason in history, and not only the Big Red Machine, but also the Reds in the 90s, who had great players like Reggie Sanders, Barry Larkin. I think it was Jose Rijo back then. Some of their big names. They were a very good team in the 90s. I remember watching them in the 90s. I remember hating them in the 90s because they were so good. So, that is a huge accomplishment, and it sort of puts the the 2000s or the 2010 and up Giants in some pretty in a league of their own in the postseason. So we feel good about that. Very impressive. I'd love to see them make it 9 games tomorrow. Or is it 10 games? That's really a stat I should have, but. I believe it's 9 tomorrow, but it could be 10. I'll have to look that up. It's pretty important. Maybe I'll do that for the pregame. This is going to be just the postgame. I'll do the pregame for the coming game next. First, I want to talk about some things that I neglected to mention in the pregame blog. PV had a terrible postseason record coming into this game. I think he had a 9+ ERA. And if I'd known that, I probably would have been a hell of a lot less confident. But now that I do know that, and we somehow managed to survive those horrible statistics, I think PV probably, PV had this coming. I think, he's been a quality pitcher for a long time, and I'm always kind of a believer in the law of averages evening out in the long run. And for a pitcher, as most people would say, oh, he's got a terrible record, he's going to do badly in the postseason. But I say if you're a good pitcher and you have a terrible record in the postseason, there's really no logical particular reason for that, and probably he'll find a way to even that out at least a little bit. Now I realize I just was talking about the 90+% occurrence of National League teams winning after they win the first game, so obviously I'm kind of just going right back on what I said there, kind of making the stats work how I want to see them. And if we go by the law of averages on that front, maybe that number should come down. But let's just ignore that and say, PV, amazing. I would never have thought halfway into the season. I was actually disappointed when we got PV, to be honest, because I thought, look at these stats, 4.72 ERA. This is not going to cut it. And he was replacing Matt Cain, who was known for being great, not just during the regular season, but in the postseason. I think he had a streak of 21 scoreless innings. So, at the time they made the trade, PV hardly seemed like a worthy replacement for Matt Cain. So, the fact that he came through the way he did was just exciting, and his fire out there, he was so amped up, and the way he, especially when they turned that double play, he was just, my friend is a Red Sox fan, and he was talking about how he loved PV for his competitiveness and his fire, and, I thought, well, competitiveness and fire isn't going to make up for a 4.72 ERA. But now I think I'm starting to get a pretty good idea of what he meant by the competitiveness and the fire. PV is a morale booster, and I think he's getting the other players excited, and it's been great to have him. This work, Sabian is much more with it than I am, because I never would have made the deal myself. So yeah, PV. I don't know. Not to say that I didn't want him at all, because once Kane went down, we had to get somebody. So PV was obviously better than nothing at the time. I didn't have any idea he was going to be this good. So he was the first best thing. Now let's take a quick look at the box score and see exactly how my predictions from the previous game panned out. They were, I think, I have to give myself some credit. I didn't get everything right, but there were a lot of things that I did get right. So let's take a look here. So Blanco, he managed to get on base, 1 for 4, and a walk. He got on base twice. I said he was going to have to get on base twice. He managed to do that. That was helpful. He didn't score any runs, but, if he can continue to perform at that level, even if he's hitting 1 for 4 and walking once, that'll be helpful. He left a lot of runners on base. That's a little disappointing, but hey, we didn't need him today. Joe Panik continues to be impressive, and Panik, now has the most postseason hits for a rookie in his first 2 games of all time, most in Giants history. He's alone on that, but he's tied with a bunch of other really big names in baseball history for rookies with 5 hits in their first 2 postseason games, and that's pretty impressive. So Panik, I've been a fan of this guy. I was born in upstate New York, further upstate than he was, Utica. He comes out of he does come out of upstate a little bit. And, he doesn't do a lot other than hit for average. He doesn't have any real speed. He doesn't hit a lot of home runs, but I always like a guy who hits 300. To me, he's kind of like our Matt Carpenter, You look at Matt Carpenter, you think, well, this guy could easily be a bench player. But if you say that, you miss out on the fact that he scores 100 runs in a season and that he always hits really well, gets on base, moves runners along, and as a threat to drive in runs too. He's just any player that hits 300 or even over 300, as Panik has shown, with some amount of consistency. Yeah, I have to like. It's kind of like the Pete Rose, style player. They're guys who get it done. So, yeah, Panik, great. Posey, 1 for 4 with an RBI. I said we were going to need some contributions from Posey. He came through with at least 1 RBI. That RBI was crucial in the long run. And then we get to the middle of the order, and like I said, the middle of the order was not so great. I think that was a part of the reason why we had some issues getting the runs home, although... So we have Sandoval leaving 4 guys on base and Pence leaving 3 guys on base. We left a lot of guys on base. I think they said we were something like 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position. That's definitely going to have to improve, I think, if we're going to win the series. We definitely, there was a lot of luck involved. I think the Nationals' offense is too good for us to continue to only drive in runs at that clip. And it's a worrying thing, but, I think a big part of that in this game was because, as I said in my preview, after Posey, Pence, and Sandoval didn't have great numbers against Strasburg. Now, Belt also didn't have great numbers against Strasburg. We'll get to him in a second. Pence, 1 for 4. He scored a run. That was big when he got on base. The Pence hustle. You always loved the Pence hustle. His speed is incredible. The play he hit where it looked like a double play ball. It's like the most quintessential double play ball you could imagine, and he still beat it out. And you wonder why he doesn't steal more bases. 13 stolen bases on the year, but he has blazing speed. Maybe he's just not. I don't know. Maybe Bochy doesn't like to send the runners that much. Maybe his stolen base, read the pitcher abilities don't quite match up with his speed. But he's got to be one of the fastest guys in baseball because that double play he managed to bust through hustle was just impressive. And we gotta hope, I think, the fact that he got the hit in the game, I think there's a chance that he could bust out of the slump that he's been in, and we're going to really need that because we need all the offensive help we can get against this pitching staff. Belt, 2 for 4. Belt continues to swing a hot bat. I hope this lasts because Belt is notoriously streaky. And right now he's on a hot streak, but I've seen him go cold as ice. So, let's just ride it while it goes. He looks like he knows what he's doing right now. He's hitting 500. Well, obviously just 2 for 4, but you know, had an RBI, crucial game today. Hit the run he drove in. Obviously, every run that we got today, runs were coming in at a premium, so every run we got was hugely valuable. Crawford 3 for 4. Wow. You know, what is going on with Brandon Crawford? I mean, this is a guy who, you know, struggled to hit close to 250 on the year, and he's hot. Like I said in the pregame, we have a lot of got a lot of streaky hitters. So luckily, we're at a point where the bottom of the order is streaking on the good side right now, and you got to hope that the middle of the order can pick them up tomorrow. But that was a good sign. Ishikawa, 1 for 3. He acquitted himself nicely. Wasn't really challenged in left field, but he did a decent job. Managed to get into second to break up the attempted their Strasburg's attempt to get the lead runner. Or was it Ramos's attempt, I think, to get the lead runner? So, you know, he did what he needed to do. Nothing special, but, you know, good enough that I feel okay about him being our left fielder going forward. At least he's a contact hitter, and that was one thing I didn't remember. You know, Morris probably doesn't make contact quite as well as Ishikawa does. But, you know, Ishikawa doesn't really bring the power threat. But, you know, I'm feeling better. You know, he at least has proven he can be a decent place filler. Duffy 0 for 1. He kind of made contact, flew out. You know, blah, 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 blah. And then looking at the pitching, after PV, Javi Lopez. Well, you know, Javier Lopez has not quite had the same stuff this year as he had in recent years, but I've looked at his stats. Still only 7.4 hits per 9, which is pretty good on the year, so he's not giving up a lot of hits, but his control has definitely been lacking. And that's somewhat unusual. He's never had fantastic control, but he's always been decent. And that is the concern, I think, going forward. You know, he pitched to one batter and he walked him. And I still have faith in him. I think he can still do a good job. I think he's still an important part of our bullpen. He was a crucial part of our bullpen in 2010, 2012. I think he's got the experience. But let's hope when we bring him in that it's to not to start an inning, because I think that we don't want to start an inning with walks, and he definitely doesn't have the same control he had in recent years. Hunter Strickland, well, look at his ERA. He has an 18 ERA after this game, giving up 2 runs in an inning. But does that matter? No. He struck out Ian Desmond. Ian Desmond, who I neglected to mention, and he struck out Ian Desmond in the most dangerous situation imaginable. Ian Desmond career is a 340 hitter against the Giants. This is something I neglected to mention. I did say that he's hurt us before. I didn't realize he hit 340 against us. That's scary. And it means he's going to be a force at some point in the series, is my guess. And the fact that he didn't beat us in this game is almost miraculous in itself. He also hits, I think it's, let's see, what is it with the, I think with the bases loaded. What was that stat I saw? With the bases loaded, he has, oh yeah, that's right, I remember, 381. A 381 batting average with the bases loaded and 2 out. That is sick. I think it's something like overall, it's like over 400 with the bases loaded, but with 2 out, 381 average. And Strickland struck him out. I mean, on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, this guy is probably going to be our closer next year. I love Romo, but we all know that they're probably not going to pay him. Strickland, I mean, unbelievable. 100-mile-per-hour fastball. And I think, you know, Bochy gets a lot of credit here. You know, with the bases loaded, I want a guy who can throw 100 miles an hour out there, you know? I mean, who would you have rather have seen? You know, Machi had been struggling. Casilla, obviously, you have to save for the later innings. You got to save Romo as a setup man. Affelt is can be a little too wild sometimes to be safe in a bases loaded situation, I think. Um, so really, he was the only viable option at the time, and I was really happy to see him coming in. I know other people were probably going, "Oh, we're going to bring this rookie in this dangerous situation," but I'm sure also a lot of people were thinking, "Well, the guy throws gas, and we need somebody who can beat anybody at this point." And with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, he certainly is capable of beating anyone. Now, immediately after that, he proceeded to give up a home run to Bryce Harper and a home run to Asdrubal Cabrera. Two guys who are dangerous, but I wanted to make note, these are left-handed hitters. Bryce Harper and Asdrubal Cabrera. So it seems as if what I've learned from watching Hunter Strickland in this game is that I feel a lot better bringing him in crucial situations against righties than against lefties. Lefties don't seem to have a major problem hitting the 100-mile-an-hour fastball or the 90, usually more like 98, 99-mile-an-hour fastball. And there's also a phenomenon I've noticed with hard throwers. When they're throwing that hard, you don't really have to hit the ball as hard in order to make it go out, because it already has a lot of kinetic energy coming in at you at close to 100 miles an hour. So it's going to go out faster. And the case in point would be the 3 home runs Pablo Sandoval hit against Justin Verlander in Game 1 of the World Series in 2012. I think part of the reason why, Pablo's not a huge home run hitter, but part of the reason why he hit 3 home runs is because the ball had so much energy coming off of Verlander's hands. And, Pablo can square up a ball almost anywhere. So, I think we're going to see more home runs given up by Strickland, unfortunately. But he really gets a pass because, again, in the most unlikely of scenarios where I think we all pretty much knew the game was on the line, he struck out Ian Desmond. And if that had been anything other than a strikeout, I can pretty much guarantee you the Giants would have lost this game. So, crucial, Bochy. This is, something Bochy, when it comes to the playoffs, he's got this special ability to turn it on in a way that, there are a lot of things I disagree with as far as Bochy's calls during the regular season. But in the playoffs, he just seems to hone in and focus and know what to do in every situation. And it's rare that I disagree with Bochy. And it wasn't just with the Strickland call. It was the way he was sending runners to stay out of the double play. I love that. I love it when they send runners to stay out of the double play. The fact that he sent Pence to steal second base to put him in scoring position. He knew that Strasburg was going to be tough. And he gave us chances to win by pushing the envelope a little bit. And he's going to have to push the envelope with this team because, we're not the kind of team, I think, we need to utilize everything we got to beat the Nationals. And one of those things is speed. And we don't have a lot of speed, but we've got Blanco, we've got Pence, and we've got Brown that made the postseason roster. I was glad to see they put Brown on the postseason roster. Sad to see Morse is out, but, with Brown, gives us another pinch runner with really good speed, so he's not necessarily the most talented base runner. His caught stealing percentage is, he's been caught quite a bit in the minors, but he obviously has blazing speed, so he can be useful. But great job by Bochy utilizing the speed we do have in the lineup. Really managed a fantastic game today. Let's see. What else do we have here? So yeah, we're gonna need to get more hits with runners in scoring position. I think I mentioned that. Romo, it's this hat right here. Remember Sergio Romo hat? Must have been the hat because but in all honesty, Romo was great today. He had his slider working, good break. I was a little nervous when there was I think there was a runner on first and second. But he got out of it. He also made Ian Desmond had a rough day. He struck out Ian Desmond, and you could kind of tell that Ian Desmond wasn't really picking up the slider. So that Romo could be our solution to Ian Desmond because it doesn't look like he really knows when the slider's coming, and he looked pretty fooled by it. So Romo, crucial inning as to set up Casilla. That was the middle of the Nationals' order, as they mentioned on the radio earlier. And in a time when we had a one-run lead and nothing felt certain, he got it through to Casilla. And I think Romo I think he is a setup man. I was really afraid to see him take on two left-handers in that inning. And I definitely don't want to see Romo taking on too many left-handers in general, because I still don't believe in him as a guy who gets lefties particularly. His changeup doesn't seem to have developed to the point where he gets a lot of lefties in particular. But if there's a righty up there, I never mind seeing him in there, because I know that the slider is deadly, and he is an artist with that pitch. So hopefully we don't have to see Romo take on too many lefties, but yeah, he was money today. Then Casilla. Well, I've never felt that comfortable with Casilla as a closer, because he didn't manage to hold down the role last year when they gave him a chance. And he seems to go in streaks. But he was super solid, and it's hard to imagine why he couldn't be a closer. His numbers are so good. Anybody with a sub-2 ERA you'd think would make a good closer. I still say Strickland will probably be the closer next year, but Casilla, fantastic job, and made it look easy. Maybe Casilla will be the closer next year. We'll see how he does for the rest of the postseason. Certainly feel a lot more comfortable with him out there at this point. If we'd lost, even after Desmond was struck out, and before the 2 home runs were given up, should I say, even after the 2 home runs were given up, you had to know that if they blew their 1-run lead late, it was starting to get definitely scary there with the 2 home runs, but they managed to keep the lead, and if they'd blown that lead late, I don't think there's any chance they would have come back. I think we had to rely on Peavy's great start, and the bullpen had to come together to win this game, because we saw what happened when the last game they played against the Nationals in Washington, when we tried to have the bullpen hold it together, and things started to unravel. They unraveled damn quick. So the bullpen redeemed themselves against Washington in this game, and you gotta hope that they can continue to pitch like we know they can. They've had playoff experience. They've been a great bullpen year in, year out. We don't have to see J.C. Gutierrez out there, thank God. Juan Gutierrez is gone, and I think he was definitely not someone I ever needed to see. We know what he is. He was a sort of an innings eater guy they had in there, but guy they had in there to sort of, to eat up some time. But I think Hunter Strickland has effectively replaced his role, and I'd much rather see Hunter Strickland out there, even giving up home runs, than Gutierrez, because Gutierrez, he had a decent fastball, but it seemed like he just was hittable and inconsistent. And I don't think he'll be back with the team next year. I certainly hope not. Sorry, Juan, you didn't quite cut it. Anyone who pushes a 4 ERA on a regular basis probably is not someone you want to rely on in the bullpen. Let's see. So now we've neutralized home field advantage. And what's even better about this is we have Bumgarner waiting in the wings to start Game 1. I am a little concerned about this, by the way, in the future. Does this mean we're not going to have Bumgarner starting Game 1 if we make it to the next series, or can we shuffle things? Because we really want to be able to have Bumgarner twice in a series if we have to. And I don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't think it's possible in this series, that's for certain. I don't think we're going to see him in Game 5. So hopefully, if we do manage to win this series, which is still, not certain in any way, shape, or form, despite my optimistic stats that I talked about earlier about the division series history. So yeah, we're going to need Bumgarner to start, at least have the opportunity for him to start 2 games. But I think with a 7-game series, there's probably a good chance that would happen. We could bring him back on short rest, but it is great to have him waiting in the wings. I almost wish he could have started on the road because he's done better on the road this year. But I have no major problem with him starting in Game 3. I think that's a good threat to have. And, this game coming up obviously means a lot. Bryce Harper is calling it a must-win game. And for their sake, I think it is. Because, the moral victory, if the Giants, can come in and upset them 2 games in a row, or the morale victory, I should say. It would be tough for the Nats to stomach. They would have a difficult time with being down 0-2 to a team that was supposed to be not particularly a large challenge. So, and the good thing about this game is we've got Hudson going in this game. And you might think, oh, well, Hudson, he's had some hip issues. He hasn't been the pitcher this year that he's been in recent past, even the last couple of years in Atlanta. I mean, if we were getting the Hudson that we had in the first half of the season, then we'd feel pretty confident. But the Hudson we saw in the second half of the season was pretty god-awful. And the last month especially did not have a lot of quality starts. Definitely a major concern. For that reason, we can't have a lot of faith in him. But on the other hand, so we've got a battle here. We've got the battle of Hudson's been terrible recently versus Hudson is a Nats killer. He has had a lot of experience against the Nats, having come from the NL East in Atlanta. And against the Nationals, get this, 2.35 ERA lifetime. That's in 210 innings pitched. That's quite a bit of innings. More than almost any other team. And I think that might be more than every other team, actually. And an 18-5 record. I mean, you gotta like that, right? 18-5. I mean, those are numbers you can take to the bank. 302 strikeout to walk ratio. Fantastic. 1089 whip. I mean, you can't ask for much more in this situation. So, we're talking about, great numbers lifetime. And we're going to need him to be that guy again. And we go up against Jordan Zimmermann. Now, Jordan Zimmermann is coming off of a no-hitter. And that's a little scary. But remember, I'm a believer in the law of averages, and while Zimmermann is a fantastic pitcher, I think he's due to get maybe, hit a little bit. I'm not going to say roughed up, but, recent history has sort of shown that a lot of players that pitched a no-hitter, I think generally, they're not nearly as solid in the next game. Not to say that they're bad, but I'm not expecting Zimmermann to go out there and pitch another no-hitter, let's say that. And versus the Giants, Zimmerman's been good. 2.79 ERA. Not nearly as much experience as Hudson has had against the Nats. He's only had 51 innings against the Giants. He's 5-2, which is pretty decent record there. His whip isn't as good against the Giants, but his strikeout to walk ratio 4.78. So Zimmermann is obviously a force to be reckoned with. He's never been easy. He shut down the Giants many times before. And I think if we're going to get through to him, they're going to have to swing the bats. This is time to let the free swingers loose. Let them, try to square him up early and often, because he doesn't walk a lot of guys. I think he has a sub-2 walks per 9 this year, and that is intimidating. Actually, 1.3 walks per 9. I mean, that is really low, if you know baseball statistics history. But 8.3 hits per 9, still quality, but, it's semi-hittable. He's semi-hittable, so we're going to have to go after him. I mean, this could potentially even be the best of the staff, Jordan Zimmermann. Fister's had a great year, but historically, I don't think he's as good as Zimmermann. Strasburg, certainly Probably has the most talent in the staff, but he's still green. So I think that sort of was. I mean, Strasburg was no slouch. But I think Zimmerman is the most mature pitcher, and Zimmerman is in the height of his prime. So this is going to be a tough one, and the Nationals are going to be ready to jump all over Hudson because he made that comment about them potentially not having any cojones. And you know that they're going to be. I don't know if Hudson did that kind of as psychological warfare. Maybe he sort of said that because he figured, and they get up there and the batter's box, they'll be on tilt. They'll want to beat him so badly that they'll beat themselves. That's the only thing I can guess as to why he would say something like that. And maybe Hudson knows he has ownage on the Nationals, and so just wanted to put an extra little seed of doubt maybe in their heads, or put a chip on their shoulders so that they try too hard, swing too hard, go for the fences. I don't know. We'll see. It could either help or it could totally backfire, and they could study up and be sure that they try to kick his ass more than they ever had. Despite Hudson's great history versus the Nats, no stats are 100%. You can't take any stats, as an absolute. Things are going to vary depending on a lot of variables. So, I feel pretty good about this game. I'm not going to say I think we're going to win. I think it's going to be a tight game. I could see Hudson pitching very well and us losing. But we'll see. I think I'll talk more about it in the game preview. I'm not even supposed to be going into that yet. So yeah, and last thing I'll say, if we can win this next game, I believe we have a shot to win the series. I mean, the chances are very good they'll win the series if they can win this next game. I would say that there's no guarantee that they win the series. I wouldn't even be surprised if they won this next game and then lost 2 and had to play Game 5. But I do believe that that if we can win this next one, we'll have a huge advantage. And let's go Giants! Lucky Romo hat on, ready to go. This has been very exciting. Let's keep this fantastic postseason rolling.